Owen's brother Hayden was just too stubborn for his own good. He was far too principled at too tender an age. Back then, Owen just thought Hayden was stupid, but Owen was an idealist. Like most children in the 1950s, they were beaten constantly and undoubtedly deserved it. Looking back, they will all honestly admit that they can't understand why they weren't just killed any number of times for their many and excessive transgressions. Owen and Hayden wore out their mother's hand that she used for spanking before Owen was 5 and Hayden 6. So she began to use convenient items like the wooden paddle from the paddle and ball game after the rubber band attaching the ball to the paddle was broken. Owen hated going to carnivals where these paddle and ball games were a choice at the fish pond because his brother Hayden always forgot what happened to them. But neither of them forgot what "wait until your father gets home" meant. As with most things in the 1950s, the official beating had a specific procedure associated with the ritual. After all, this was justice. Actually, it was more like a carefully crafted execution, complete with witnesses. Mom, the snitch, brothers and sisters enjoying it way too much. The long walk from death row, the supper table where the victim was tried, prosecuted, and sentenced, to the death chamber, Mom and Dad's bedroom, where they had to kneel down and, like good little Catholics, bend over, kind of like the guillotine but for the butt. The executioner, Dad, used the most convenient device available to dispense justice, the belt that he was wearing. Hayden always marched to the death chamber in stoic silence, accepting his fate. You might say he took his punishment like a man. Owen never accepted this definition of a man and immediately hit the ground blubbering like a scared shitless 5-year-old, which he was, and had to be dragged and placed into the appropriate position, draped like a terrified wet rag over the edge of the bed. In addition, every time Dad reared back to strike, Owen shifted his butt away from the side. From the side he assumed Dad was going to hit. Ellsworth Sr. hated it. "Now you'll get two," he would roar. Owen eventually quieted down somewhat and got his two, crawled off bawling as though he had just been lashed with a cat o' nine tails by Nelson's bosun, and enjoyed the application of righteousness on his brother's butt all the more. Lead Butt Hayden, as he called his brother, would never give Dad the satisfaction of knowing that he ever felt the pain of his punishments. All Dad wanted was a tear, a whimper, even a brief sob would do. I suppose Owen gave him plenty for both of them, but Hayden would never budge and consequently never got away with less than 3. One thing that even Hayden feared was the dreaded bare butt spanking. The bare butt spanking was always worse because it was usually inflicted on the spur of the moment, always at an inopportune time, and because of this, with a little anger associated. The scenario would go like this. Owen and Hayden having a hard time getting to sleep on a hot summer night. Air conditioning did not exist for lower middle class families in the 1950s. Mom and Dad had a long day. Mom had to cook and clean for 5 kids and a husband. Uncle Andy and Aunt Georgia had just left after beating Mom and Dad at bridge. Dad was not a good loser. Mom stayed up until 1 a.m. to finish up some laundry. She was 12 months pregnant again. Dad had played golf this morning, watched 2 baseball games while sleeping on the couch, and was waited on hand and foot by Mom all day long. He must have been exhausted. Owen and Hayden decided that this would be a great time to jump from one side of the room to the other on their beds and bash into the wall upon each leap. Mom whispered loudly, "Boys, you better stop that before I tell your father." Sounded like an idle threat to them. Dad is a heavy sleeper. Mom yelled, "Owen and Hayden, if I have to come up those stairs, I'm bringing a belt with me, and you both know what a bad aim I am in the dark." All talk. She was too tired, and they could easily outrun a pregnant woman. They would then begin their favorite game, The traditional lying down on the bed kick fight with lots of slapping noises, giggles, screams, and laughter, mixed with thuds against the wall. The next voice was, as always, that of their father, who now art in their room. Hallowed be his name. He never threatened.